Howdy.
Hello.
We have some good news.
I'm officially retired from my job, and it's sunny.
It is finally sunny. So we've been waiting for this for a while, for Gina to be retired. We can't get on the road without that. I'm having trouble finishing a lot of projects because...
Just overwhelmed, I think.
Yeah, I'm just overwhelmed with stuff. Yeah. So this is fantastic. Now we can both work towards this and make this happen. So another big piece of information is that Bear is ready to go for the box. Getting our new composite box.
Well done.
Yes. And I am in the final stages of making measurements. So I have decided that I am going to tear down the current fire truck body box.
Not the cab part, just the box part.
Just the box part.
And why is that?
Because I want to get access to the subframe, which is the floor of the current box. We're going to just use that. I want to have full access to it so I can make measurements and see the state of the steel that is there.
Are you worried about rust?
I am definitely worried about rust. I know this thing leaks and it all probably ends up in the tubing in the bottom, our new subframe. So I want to tear it apart and see what it looks like. All right, so what are we going to do here? First thing we're going to do is gut this thing. So take out everything that I've built so far.
Which also means we can't use it for a little while.
Yeah, we're not going to be able to use the truck until we get the box back on there and we can actually live out of this thing full time. I'm thinking we should call this version 1.0.
Okay.
For super creative, but so this will be 1.0. This is about as far as I would be willing to take one of these fire truck bodies. I've seen others on YouTube and online take it further, but me personally, I would not want to invest any more money or time into this than I already have.
The biggest thing is not being able to stand up. It really limits what we can do.
One of the main things is these doors. They're an absolute deal breaker. I don't know. I think you'd have to just mount all the doors down permanently. That would be the only way to address that in a way that wasn't stupid expensive. And then you're left with still a lot of places where water and air and sand can get in. So you'd have to seal all of that, and then you don't have any insulation at all. So then you have to insulate the whole thing. Then you'd have to cut the frame and raise the roof so you could stand up in it. It just does not seem worth it. And then there's also tons of leaks and rust. So you'd have to tear it down to the frame anyway, so you could deal with all that to make sure it's sealed properly. It just doesn't make sense for a house.
It's a good 1.0 quick and dirty version, as you said.
Yeah, if you're just using this for weekends or maybe a week or two getaways, sure, no problem at all. But if you wanted to live out of this full time, I don't think this is the way to go. Just my 2 cents based on our experience and what we've done to it and everything. So we're going to gut this thing, pull everything out like I said. Then we are going to take the roof off, and then we are going to take all the doors off, and then I am going to cut all the points on the frame here that go up, all the verticals, and then we can take that whole shell off, and then I'll probably end up taking off the aluminum flooring as well. So we're going to have a bajillion rivets to drill out as well. So since we're pulling out the electric and everything, there's no point in having a fridge in here either. So I'm going to end up taking out all of this as well, so that at the same time we can contemplate the pass-through and maybe even start working on that pass-through. I imagine welding the tubes we need to do and cutting the hole in the back of the cab is going to be a lot easier when we don't have a box in the back. So we'll probably tackle all that at once. Then I can get measurements, be 100% before we order it, order the box, the composite box from Bear, get that on its way, which will take many months to get here. And then once that gets here, we can mount it and we can have a place to live.
Love it.
Yeah, and then we will start the build out of the inside of that. So, yeah, let's get started.
Let's do it.
All right, making some progress, tearing down all of our progress. Door's gone, pulled out all of our stuff. Just need to get the battery in the toilet. Gina's taking apart walls. So this thing should be empty quite soon. All right, we are done with day 2. I was able to get one door off. This one was easy because it came off in pieces because I cut big holes in it. So we got that one off. And then getting these doors off when you don't have big holes in them, it's actually harder than it looks. So I'm still trying to figure that out. All right, I thought I'd cover this real quick just in case you happen to have one of these doors. We'll just document this so you have a good idea of what's going on here. And so on the inside of this tubing, we have these tracks, and it looks like there's actually a rubber gasket in between the track and the wall, and these are just screwed in here and they come right off, and that's what the door goes in and out. So this is the anatomy of one of the doors. Rubber gasket like we showed over there in between the tubing and the track, aluminum track. Now on some of these tracks I had trouble getting a P2 Phillips head in this, so I had to use a P1, so something to think about. This rubber goes in this slot and covers up these screw holes, and that's what seals up the outside edge of this door. And then you've got the aluminum door, which is just multiple pieces together. We've got our handle. This is the push button. That's all pretty obvious when you start looking at it. One thing that wasn't obvious when I was taking it apart, this piece here, which is riveted on here, and this is actually, it goes against the outside and seals up the top so nothing can get up in there. And this also makes it hard to get off. Obviously these are the wheels that this rolls on when it goes up and down, and this is the spring with the straps that connect here and assist with the up and down. So we are inside the box. This is kind of interesting, I thought. How they welded in these tubes and they ran wire through them. And then we also have wire going through the uprights coming out here. Now I don't know how you would possibly rewire any of this at any point. It kind of seems like they did it, and once it was done, it was done. No, clear. So yeah, these things are a freaking nightmare. You are just constantly hitting your head on these corners. And then one time we were rolling up a door, and because they spin, Gina was sitting here on the bed, her hair got caught in it.
Yeah, rolled up my ponytail, I screamed.
Yeah, so you gotta be extremely careful that nobody's in here and has any fingers or hair anywhere near these when you're using them. Yeah, just not good for home use. So these doors, if you ever want to pull them off completely, you can take the tracks off. That's easy enough. And I can unhook the webbing and the spring. That's easy enough. The big problem is that sealing lip that I showed on the other door. It's right on the other side here. And you can take these off, these rollers. You would think that would give you enough space, but they don't. That lip still hits. So the only way I can find to actually get these doors off is to cut these off. And I'm not sure if they welded these on after they put the doors in, but it sure seems that way. And you know, maybe I'm just missing something. I also tried removing them from the other end of the track, and that doesn't work because this bottom edge here is fatter and it doesn't fit up through there either. It still can't get past this. So my solution was to chop those off. As you can see, I did here and here. So just something to know if you ever want to remove these doors. Well, we did it. Doors are done. What do we have to show for it? I don't know. Just a box. Part of me says it was a good experience. We learned a lot.
Yeah.
Part of me says I wish we would have just done this on day one.
Right. Yeah. Just pushed ourselves a little bit.
Would have been half the work.
But you know, you can't. I don't know. We didn't know what we were doing. I think we just had to use it and learn. I have no regrets.
Me neither.
You can Monday morning quarterback all you want, but we did the best we could with the information we had in front of us. So we made that decision and just moved forward. So it is what it is.
Let's look at these sills. As far as I can tell, these sills are just glued on. Looks like there's a glue strip, maybe double-sided tape. Yeah, it's probably more double-sided tape. And you can see some of the damage in here. So that was one of the reasons, one of the main reasons I wanted to pull all this off, is so that I could assess this damage and we could deal with it before we order the top, or at least come up with a plan before we order the box, so that we don't run into some sort of issue later. So I'm guessing these are all just gonna pop off. Yep. Looks like they're just aluminum. And that's very satisfying. Oh yeah. You can see the water in there still from when it rained. So it was definitely holding water. We have 3 good doors. Actually, I have a 4th door that's stored in the back. So we have 4 good doors. All the door hardware, handle hardware. And we have all of the tracks and the rubber and the other rubber and all of the wheels and all the springs. The straps would have to be, I cut all the straps, so those couldn't be reused. So anywho, if anybody out there has one of these boxes with these kind of doors and you need hardware, let me know, because I have some replacements. Super cheap, if not free. Just contact me. Alright, so this is one of the small side doors. It is 56.5 by 37.5. 30 pounds. This is a big side door. I guess they all should be about the same height. 56.5 by 60 wide. 47.7, so 48 pounds. Alright, this is the rear door. It is 54 inches by 49.5. 37.8. So what Alright, so I want to show you these doors just in case anybody has these and ever needs to work on them. They are just simply extruded aluminum pieces, and they slide together, which I'll show you in a second. But the only thing keeping these doors together are these little plastic pieces, and they go on the end here like this one. I'll take this one off. You can see right now, like this can't move because it hits the lip of that. If we take this off, I'm finding they're quite easy to hammer out. Once that's hammered out, this just slides freely. So on this end we have the rubber thing. Can't pull it apart. Take the rubber thing off, and now it slides out freely. And that's your doors. And I think that's why they're so heavy. All that extra material used for the hooking so they can be articulated. And the double-sided, so that all adds up after a while. Also, something I noticed when I was taking these apart, there was definitely water in a lot of the creases, so they definitely hold water, and they're not waterproof by any stretch. So that's how you take apart these articulated aluminum doors. All right, it's a new day, and the doors are gone. The inside has been completely gutted. We now must focus our attention on the roof. First things first, get the spare tire off. I don't want to disparage anybody, but I'm going to point this out. I don't know if I'm going to put this in the final cut or not, because Rob was great, but man, whoever put my tires on, they just destroyed the paint on these rims. I had these powder coated, which was not cheap, and they did it to all of them. That one looks the worst because it was sitting on the roof and had the most water on it, but I mean, they just tore into my paint, and I don't know if that's just the way it goes, but the rim is also bent. Looks like they bent the rims, and they just beat the crap out of these things. Now, when I had these originally painted and the old tires mounted to them by the local place, they didn't damage the rims at all. They were perfect going into Rob's. Well, you know, obviously they were driven on, but they weren't beat up like that. So anyway, yeah, that was a little disappointing, but what are you gonna do? All right, we have pulled the tire off, and we are in the process of now removing this large piece of aluminum. It is just held on with these little 10 millimeter, I believe, stainless bolts. They're just here all the way along the edges. Looks like they drilled directly into the tubing. I don't know if they welded nuts on the inside of those or if they're like riv nuts or something like that. We'll see once we pull it off. The only other thing to do up here that we did was pull off this railing, which was also drilled directly into the tubing, just 13 millimeter bolts, and that's it. This thing has gotten very wobbly though since I've started taking things off. It is not a super rigid frame by any stretch. Yeah, that's pretty wobbly.
it's also got the slack. Like you're running out of slack now. Lift up that way. So I can do this.
You got that?
Yep.
First bolt, second bolt.
A little more. Just a little more. There we go. More. Nope. We're good.
The horse is in the right spot.
Yep.
Watch your hands on the horses.
Yep. See?
Look at
A
that.
little more.
Alright, full slack.
Yep, please give it.
She's done.
Okay, now we could literally take it all off. Excellent.
You need a slider, right?
Nope, just literally. If you hold it straight, now walk around. Just like this.
Alright. Ready down?
Yep.
Yeah, it's not even that heavy.
No, it was just keeping it from doing that. That's all I was after. Take it as slow as you need to. Try to rush it. Watch your ceiling on the metal. Plant it where you want it to go.
Down. Flat. And I just wanted to document this in case anybody else is curious in the future, has something like this. I'm sure finding documentation from Ziegler is not going to be possible. I'm starting this back corner. Corner looks like. Yeah, these hold those panels on that we're covering this, the aluminum panels. You can see all the wiring that's going through that wiring's going in down there, through here. This is what I put in. That's coming from the brakes. So it goes up to my brake light. Here's the front wall. Corner. Just a bunch of tabs welded on. Alright, so they did do like riv nuts. And that's how the roof was attached. See, I've got some damage here. Looks like this is crushed. So I don't know if something fell on this at some point. But something landed here and crushed this. You can see water seeping in there and rusting that. This corner looks pretty good. Except for here, you can see water was getting in. Looks like we have a rubber gasket here. Didn't know about that. Taking the ladder off. The last thing to go.
Nice, look at that. Major chunk.
So my box has these aluminum drip rails that go along the side here. Looks like they have a rubber gasket. They're just screwed in. And from my experience in the past, these are a great place for corrosion. Definitely had a lot of corrosion here on the corner. These are all rusted out with the screw in. So if you have one of these and you want to keep it, I would highly recommend pulling these drip rails and dealing with any rust that you find. This was also highly corroded. That's why I ended up painting these corners. I sanded them down and painted them, tried to do something about it. There's a lot of corrosion in here, which may have something to do with the cracking on that tube. Not sure. So this one in the back actually had this rubber here that covered in this slot here. I don't think I'll be able to get it back in. But anyway, it covered up all the holes. So it went along this whole edge here like that. The other ones did not have this, so maybe that's partly why they rusted so much. Let's see what this one looks like. Oh, a lot cleaner. Wow. You don't have the rusting in the holes like you do in the other one. No corner rust. Wow. Huh. So yeah, maybe this is the trick. It goes in there like so. This one actually does have the rubber in the rail here covering, so you can see what that looks like. So we will see if it helped here. Well, that theory didn't hold water. Alright, so yeah, totally rusted out, rusted out, rusted out. Rusted out, rusting out. So, okay, well, the rubber strip did not do the trick, at least not on this side. Alright, I just took this piece from there. This is how they constructed it. That is a weird cross section. Quite the hodgepodge of material there. Definitely see the rusting inside of the tube. Alright, so I've completely disconnected the back. And you can see this thing moving now. And you can see that tube right there is completely... Alright, we are making good progress. Almost, well, absolutely, the whole middle section is down. This is for anybody that has one of these and is thinking about using one for, I don't know, an expedition box, camper box. Maybe you would want to think through this, or at the very least inspect yours
Carefully.
This is only one of many. This is my experience, so I don't know how much it translates, but something to be wary of. All these uprights here. So you can see here, giant crack. That is completely separated. I think the only thing holding this in place is the sheet metal that's around the edge here. So that's that one. This one also had a giant crack here. That one wobbled the same way before I cut it off. And then at the top, there's also a massive crack up here. So that's two. This one, we have a massive crack right here. And then it looks like it's split along the bottom here, but you can see that's pretty much completely separated as well. This one here, you can see completely opened up there, completely separated. So I think this whole wall, the only thing holding that on is the sheet metal, which is not nothing. This one here, it seems to be cracked around the front, but it has a little more, but you can see it moves. There's a little bit of play there. This one, I can't see any play at all. I can't see any cracks or play, but you can definitely see rust and where it's starting to fall apart in there. This one, this middle one, this one was pretty solid actually. This one didn't have any cracks in it at all. You can see actually on the inside it's not even that corroded. And then lastly, this one, also a little bit of play there. I think if you see there's a small crack right in there. I thought a lot of these were actually just paint cracking, but turns out they're the whole tube. And then that one seems to move quite a bit. So it's either cracked or it's pulling off of the tube that it's connected to. And then up here, there's no cracking. So anyway, I guess my point is that's like 80% of the vertical uprights holding this box onto the floor are cracked. And then we had a 350-pound tire on the roof. You know, I don't know. Something to think about. Doesn't seem very safe, and it's only going to get worse. And at some point, I would imagine you could have a catastrophic failure. This whole thing just slides off, or I don't know. So anyway, something to think about.
Oh my gosh. Are you okay?
Yep. I do love this saw. I don't think it's made for this, but it does work. A lot of corrosion. So this is one of the pieces we were going to keep.
Uh-oh.
Clearly we're going to have to cut that off and replace that.
For sure.
Yes. So should I send that to Kurt at GTFO? Hang it on the wall? Pretty sure it ended here and they tack welded it, just smoothed it out. I don't think this is sheet metal on top of here. A little more interesting. For some reason there is another piece of steel on here. I don't know why, but I can see it's welded. It's welded right here. And I'm gonna guess it's welded over here. Oh, I think this was put here for the ladder. Yeah, that makes sense. This is where the ladder was bolted. I think that's actually one of the ladder bolt holes. So, reinforcement for the ladder. That makes sense. So these are where the arms for the spool holder went. This is where I put my heater. So I made that hole. These two were also in there, but those were covered. So I imagine some Unimogs, they might use another spool holder. This and this, these are the wheel wells. Those are the brake fluid canisters and the hydraulic brake booster, I guess you would call it. And that's pretty much it. Pretty straightforward. This is what I cut. So I had conduit going from here to the front cab, and that was the wiring for the refrigerator. Next up, I'm going to drill out every one of these rivets, and then we're going to pull this floor off. Let's get in there.
What? Wow. Scary noises. Is that so scary? Thoughts?
Got a lot of work ahead of us. This is
That's nothing new.
a bit of a mess. So we got to scrape all this off. There's a lot of rivets in here.
Another reason we need to get out of the city.
Yes. Time to leave Long Beach. Yeah, the rivets, that means there's a lot of holes in this frame. So, I don't know if that's good or bad. This whole outer edge here sits lower than the rest of the frame. You can see there's a ledge there.
At what point does building a new one make more sense than repurposing the old one?
That's a great question, and that's a question for somebody other than me. Yeah, maybe we can just start with the center section and cut everything else off, and just use that as our starting point, or we just have a completely new one made that's just way thicker and more robust. I need to talk to TJ or whoever would be making this frame and see what would be easier to do. And I'm also going to send photos and video to Orlando
That bear adventure?
at Bear and see what they require for the box. So yeah, because the box is going to have places where we can screw in. There's going to be added supports built into the bottom panel that we can screw into. We need to know where those are.
More sirens.